The pill was the first, quote, medicine that we took to render a perfectly functioning part of the body unable to function. If you were having sex and you got pregnant, this does not mean something went wrong. It means something went beautifully right.
When I really started to get into my faith, it was at an older age, and it wasn't a refusal of my history, but it was a reflection on really what am I hungry for? And so instead of feeling like I needed to get to a place of holiness, I felt like the yearnings that I had already, the place where I already was where I needed to start.
When you're paying attention to what's really going on inside, you know that there is a cry in there for something. What is that something we are crying out for? I say to everyone, pay attention to that cry.
Welcome to Into the Truth, the podcast from the Catholic Truth Society. My name is Pierpaolo. I'm the CEO of the CTS and your host for this podcast. It's my very great honour and privilege to be able to welcome two great guests from the States. First, needs no introduction, I think, to many who have been following his work like I have over the last, sort of scary, 3 decades. Yeah, exactly, 3 decades. Christopher West, and today we are joined by Mike Mangione, a guitarist, musician extraordinaire, and he'll be accompanying Christopher West in this amazing event that's going to take place here in St. George's Cathedral in Southwark.
You know why we travel the world together?
Yeah.
Because John Paul II said, you cannot evangelize without art.
Okay, yeah.
And to have, I am so honored to travel the world with, I consider one of the finest singer-songwriters that I have ever known. And his art combined with my presentation allows for an experience that's not just tickling the intellect, but stirring the heart.
Yeah, sort of all the senses.
That's
all
right.
At the same time. No, we're really looking forward to it. I mean, we'll come back to how this event works this evening, but I've just come back from a family wedding in Sicily, and as Mike well knows, when you're with Italians, half the discussions are about the food, and the other half are about the health of the body. You know, when you ask somebody how they feel in Italy, they really answer. So what I wanted to ask you, I wanted to sort of see if we could start with Christopher and just take the temperature of the kind of the theology of the body. I mean, theology of the body is reaching middle age. John Paul II gave those talks, I think,
from 1979 to 1984.
So in his 40s.
Yeah. Its hairline is receding.
Yeah, his hairline's receding, starting to wear glasses. Very, very something I very much can sympathise with. So I mean, Christopher, you've been involved in the sort of popularization of theology of the body from the kind of early days. Yes. How's it holding up after?
Well, I'm reminded of a
years?
story. It was the day John Paul II died, and I was giving a seminar in the United States, and somebody came up to me at the end of the event, and I had made the announcement to about 500 people that the news had come in that the Holy Father had died. So this was April 2nd, 2005. And somebody said to me, what are you going to do now? As if it was all over, right? Because he had died. And I said, no, you don't understand. This is just the beginning, right? Unless the seed go into the ground and die, it remains a single seed. But if it goes into the ground and dies, it bears a great harvest. And I would say that that great harvest is yet to be seen. But as the years have gone on since John Paul II's death, 20 years now, the need for the theology of the body just increases over and over and over. Like it's doubling, it seems, every few years, the need for it. So for such a time as this, the crisis we are in today, where we no longer even, the culture at large no longer even has the category male and female, let alone understands what those categories mean, those words mean. We need this theology of the body more than ever. For such a time as this, have we been given it. Yeah. So its heyday is still ahead of us.
I would add too, in my experience of traveling with you, which has been close to 20 years, is There's a time when people were engaging this for the first time, and then there was a period where we would meet people who had been engaging and now they're starting to bear fruit.
Yeah.
And now we're in a time where we're meeting young adults who have parents that have taken it seriously and try to embody it, who have grown up with this teaching and are just functioning very naturally from an understanding of the gift that it is in understanding creation. So there's a lot of fruit that I'm seeing personally, especially as an artist, with people that create, small c, create things with materials. There's a lot of beautiful things coming very naturally from.
Yeah, there is an organic expression of the fruit in art. Movie makers, musicians, sculptors, painters. And that's one of my favorite things to see is people who are bringing this into their own world and being creative with it.
Yeah, because John Paul II's kind of one of his major inspirations for this was that art in the Sistine Chapel.
Exactly right.
The nakedness of the figures. Now, talking of nakedness, I mean, I don't know even if John Paul II, in his kind of wildest nightmares, could have foreseen just how bad things were going to get.
He foresaw it. I have no doubt he foresaw it, because he understood the logic of the train the culture was on. He knew where this train went. He didn't live to see what we're living through, but he knew this was coming, and he was prescient. Like, he understood in the 50s, as he's looking at the kind of groundswell of what came to be known as the sexual revolution. I don't think that's a good term for it, though. It was a pornographic contraceptive revolution. That's what it was. And he knew that the train, once you get on that train, he knew where this went. He knew it went to the obliteration of the very meaning of being male and female. So in his wisdom, he knew the church needs to do something about this. What he didn't know is that he would deliver this theology of the body as Pope. Right? He was developing this as a young priest, and it was flowering in the 60s, and then he put it into writing in the early 70s. He started writing it December 8th, 1974. And from what we can piece together, he finished it right before he was elected. So that's the one thing he didn't realize. He wrote it as a book that was going to be published in Poland. And then he's elected Pope, and he decides, okay, this is going to be my first major teaching project. And he was the first Pope to take his Wednesday audiences and use them as the opportunity to give a systematic catechesis. And he just divided that book that he had written into 135 addresses. He only actually delivered 129 because he thought the section on the Song of Songs, he did an abbreviated version of that for the public audiences, but the section that got into some of the very intimate matters of the Song of Songs, he thought probably not fitting for a public audience, but they are included in the big English translation.
Okay. I mean, in a sense, I suppose what happened was that the whole sort of sexual kind of revolution that you're talking about,
pornographic contraceptive revolution.
No, totally agree with that. Was turbocharged by the internet and,
yes,
and sort of more recently by social media. I mean, how do you? I mean, because in a sense, I remember kind of when I was encountering the sort of theology of the body for the first time in the sort of run up to my marriage in the late 90s. Was this idea that also our vision, the way that we saw the human body, the naked body, had to be kind of purified. Yes. And in a sense, it was almost like the devil kind of saw that and said, right, we need to kind of attack, full frontal attack.
If you want to know what is most important in God's plan, right, all you got to do is look to that which the enemy most violently attacks, right? Why has there been such a violent attack against our creation as male and female? Well, because our creation is male and female, and the call of the two to become one flesh, as St. Paul tells us, is a great mystery that refers to Christ and the church. Well, how so? He quotes Paul from in Ephesians. He quotes from Genesis. The line is, "For this reason a man will leave his father, his mother, be joined to his wife, the two become one flesh." It's Christ who left his Father in heaven. It's Christ who left the home of his mother on earth to give up his body for his bride so that we, the church, the bride of Christ, might become one flesh with him. Where do we become one flesh with Christ?
In the Eucharist.
In the Eucharist. When the bridegroom says to the bride, "This is my body given for you." We, like a bride, receiving Christ into us, we conceive eternal life. This is the key that unlocks the whole story of our salvation. The Bible, from beginning to end, tells the story of marriage, right? It begins with the marriage of man and woman, but it ends with the marriage of Christ and the church. And this is the key that unlocks the whole story. God wants to marry us, and he wants the bride, the church, to conceive eternal life. This is our faith, and our bodies tell this story. And the enemy wants to scramble what John Paul II calls the language of the body. Our bodies have a language that proclaim this great mystery, and the enemy's after that to scramble it, to twist it, to distort it, because if he can pornify our bodies, that pornographic vision does not communicate this mystery. Good news of the gospel is that what Satan has pornified, Christ has purified so as to glorify it also.
I mean, the terrible thing is that it's not just the way that we view the body, but actually, society has sort of said, okay, no, we need to kind of get under the hood and start kind of moving bits
rearranging
around,
it, yeah.
chopping bits off,
Yeah.
and all the rest of it.
When the body has no meaning, when you don't see that it tells this beautiful story, you think you can, at your own will, alter what your body says and what it means. You can design it according to however you prefer. And this was all predicted, again, when we embraced contraception. Paul VI said in Humanae Vitae that one of the dangers of accepting contraception is that we will eventually come to the point where we think we can manipulate our bodies at our own will and whim. And that's where we are today, right? Medicine and technology is great when it aids the body in performing its natural functions. But when it works contrary to the functions of the body, the pill was the first, quote, medicine that we took to render a perfectly functioning part of the body unable to function. If you were having sex and you got pregnant, this does not mean something went wrong. It means something went beautifully right. And doctors in the 60s, when the pill first came out, many around the world said, I refuse to prescribe it because I see it, and rightly so, as a violation of the Hippocratic Oath. Do no harm, right? Do no harm. Here's a pill we're taking to render something that functions properly unable to function, right? If you can give sight to somebody who's blind, you're working in the right direction. But if you use medicine technology to blind someone, you're working in the wrong direction. Fertility is a great gift and good of the human body. To render ourselves sterile, we're working in the wrong direction. And as soon as we adopt a mentality where medicine and technology crosses that line into rearranging the body and even shutting it down from its proper functionings, the sky's the limit. I mean, that's not even the right expression, because the sky's the limit. It's like the depths of hell become what we're entering into.
And it's interesting that, feminist authors like, say, Mary Harrington, for example, has seen that, that first kind of biohack.
That's right. Mary Harrington has spoken about this.
And she sees that as the first kind of biohack. And from there on, we become, what does she call it? Gnostic meat Legos.
Yes, that's right. Gnostic meat Legos. What an expression. Let's press into that expression. Can we press into that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gnostic meat Lego. Okay, Gnosticism, spirit good, body bad, right? I don't like my body. I don't receive it as a gift. I see it as an obstacle to my own, quote, flourishing. The limits that my body places on me, I want to get rid of. And we treat the body like Lego pieces that we can rearrange however we want. It's just a piece of meat. You're just a meat skeleton, they say. No. Your body expresses you. When you and I shook hands just a few moments ago, I was saying hello to you by shaking your hand. Conversely, if I cracked you across the jaw, I'm not harming your property. I'm not harming your meat skeleton. I'm harming you, right? Your body expresses you. And when we depersonalize sexuality to the point that we're just talking about body parts rubbing against each other, rather than, listen to this language from John Paul II, Sexual union is meant to establish a communion of persons. A communion of persons. If you're just a meat skeleton, it's just the friction of body parts. But if your body expresses your person, well, now sexual activity takes on a depth and a dimension beyond what we ever dreamed or imagined that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of return of this kind of dualistic Gnosticism is it's just a constant kind of it's the return of an old heresy that kind of comes back.
It comes back over and over and over again. Why does it come back over and over again? Because there's an enemy who hates our bodies, and he wants us to hate our bodies too. Right? Scripture says Lucifer fell out of envy. Well, Lucifer is a fallen angel. What do we have that the angels don't have? Bodies. That's what he envies. Why? Because your body, my body, Mike's body, every body, we are destined to participate in the infinite ecstasy and bliss of the Trinity bodily. The angels don't get to do that, right? Their fury is aimed at our bodies, and in particular, at our ability to generate. Why? Because the human ability to generate is what gives flesh to the second person of the Trinity, right? The holy angels are in absolute awe of our bodies and our ability to generate. The unholy angels are in absolute envy of our bodies and their ability to generate. And envy is not just, I wish I had what you had. Envy is, I hate that you have it, and I want you to hate that you have it, right? The hatred that's being aimed at the body is violent in our world today, and it's diabolic. But thanks be to God, we are not abandoned in this crisis. For such a time as this have we been given John Paul II's Theology of the Body. So we never tire of traveling the world and proclaiming this good news.
Brilliant. So last question on this kind of health check. I was at the Cathedral of Westminster, just across the Thames in London, when George Weigel presented his great biography of John Paul II, in which he used this expression about the ticking time bomb that was set to go off in the future. I mean, do you feel like that kind of explosion has sort of moved a bit further off into the future? Or, I mean, I would say that I think that the theology of the body has not had like a sort of it's not been a non-bumpy ride since then, and particularly I would say in the last sort of 10, 15 years, it's had some real kind of difficulties.
Yes, George Weigel, as you're quoting him, he says the theology of the body is a kind of theological time bomb set to go off with dramatic consequences, perhaps in the 21st century. We're not there yet. It hasn't reached critical mass. It's now at the stage where a lot of Catholics have heard of it, but they still don't know what it is. They don't know the scope and depth of what John Paul II has given us. And our organization, the Theology of the Body Institute, offers these intense courses, 5-day format, if you do it in person or online, to immerse people in this vision. And what he's given us is so rich, so deep. We have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 course. That's just the introduction. That's 90 hours of instruction. And I say to my students, after 90 hours of instruction, now you have a decent introduction. And then our other courses take that foundation and apply it in different realms. So there is so much to be done to first understand what John Paul II has given us and then start applying it in the way we do theology. There is no thesis in theology or anthropology that is not impacted dramatically by what John Paul II has given us. So there's a lot of work to do. I remain hopeful. The signs of the times indicate
it's more needed than ever.
More need than ever. So God willing, I'll die my last breath sharing this message.
To use the analogy, I think we're in the phase of the oxygen being sucked out of the room before the blast.
Ooh, right. That's a good one.
We're feeling it, but it's just not quite dark enough yet.
It's coming.
It's coming.
I mean, I do feel, though, that the kind of Anglosphere has kind of picked this up and run with it more than a lot of the other areas in the church. I mean, as I was saying, I've just been in Italy. I do follow the developments in the Italian church very much, but I get the feeling there it's still something to be discovered.
Yes,
much
you're
more.
exactly right. I have heard statements come from the Italian church and others. The ignorance of John Paul's teaching here is stupefying. It's like we've forgotten, or we never knew, or we just didn't take him seriously or something. There are these calls for what we need today is an anthropology that help. And I'm like, we have it, people. We have it. We have
We've
to
got this
take
incredible kind of tool in the toolbox. We're just kind of
Yes,
refusing
that's
to
right.
use. Yeah.
Or we don't know about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot going on in the church, and people may not know about it, but that's why we do what we do.
Please God that your work will carry on to flourishing,
God willing.
and not only in the Anglosphere. So tell us, maybe Mike, if you can tell us a bit this wonderful event that you're putting on, the Well. Tell us a bit about it's a kind of almost a kind of multimedia sort of experience of theology of the body, the Eucharist altogether. Tell us a bit about where the inspiration came from this and how it'll work.
Yeah, so the event that we're doing now is an attempt in a very short period of time to create an event that uses not just word, but images and art to reveal
And music.
which
Is art.
I consider art.
But that particular form is
Yeah.
integral to what we're doing.
To reveal the bigger picture. And I think the inspiration for me is in my part of this collaboration is that I realized songwriting for me, I write music because I can't say what I want to say. Art is using the materials to express where words fall short. By using creation, we have the ability to reveal something of the Creator when our words just can't touch it. And so trying to create an event that enables people from all walks of life to come in and get a glimmer of understanding of the bigger, the transcendental picture that we're trying to reveal through all kinds of creation. So all of it is used as part of the teaching tool. Like the music is not just a break to go to the bathroom. It's used to reveal something of the greater mystery. And for me personally, it's important because that's how I personally came into my faith. I couldn't comprehend the theological teaching. I was a public school kid. I have a difficult time comprehending that stuff, and still today. But I always felt things, and when I felt things, that drew me in and allowed me to ask a question about its source. And so we're trying to create something that draws people in and allows them from where they're at in their life to be met and then be drawn in closer to. I look at it like we're trying to huddle people around the campfire and point them in a direction to gaze. So
There's a great quote from Pope Benedict XVI that sums up why music is so integral to what we do. He says, music uncovers the buried way to the heart, to the core of our being where God dwells. And he says, wherever this happens, and I love that he says it that way, wherever this happens. He's not just talking about a hymn or sacred music. It could be listening to Bruce Springsteen, on the radio. Wherever this happens, when our hearts get opened up by music, he says, music becomes the road that leads to Jesus. Without a doubt, I have had that experience through music, without a doubt. And Mike's music in a particular way has that ability to uncover the buried way to the heart. He's a storyteller in his lyrics. He paints a picture with melody and rhythm and words that will open your heart if you let it.
So, Mike, tell us a bit. What's been your kind of process to produce the music for this event? Have you sat down to kind of write pieces specifically? Were there things that you'd kind of picked up from your kind of back catalogue
Yeah, that's funny. This particular event has one song that I intentionally wrote for the event, and it was a challenge for me. Before that, it was all, before you can put anything out, you have to receive 100 times more. And, a lot of my music has just been the fruit of a 3-minute song is the fruit of hours of just listening and praying, or of learning. And so that's usually how it was going. And I would share stuff with Christopher, and he, and a lot of, we're together all the time. We're talking about this stuff all the time. So the language is there, and the images are there for us. And so there's kind of a shorthand language that we use that he's able to listen to the music and say, oh, this is a great, and kind of meld it, wed it to an idea or a concept that he's working on. But for this event, because it's a new event, he asked if I would write something specific for it, and I was a little nervous, but I just took it to reflection and prayer, and then came up with a song called "The Well." And I was a little nervous to share it, because if he didn't like it, I don't know what I was going to do. It's gonna be like, I guess AI. I'll have to do something with AI. I don't know. But yeah, and I think that comes with experience and wisdom now. I'm at a different phase in my writing life where I know what works for me, I know what doesn't, and I can be a lot more intentional. So I'm probably going to start doing a lot more writing with that intention in mind.
So who have been your kind of main musical influences?
Bob Dylan.
Okay.
Bob Dylan's my guy. But growing up, it's interesting because people that I'm moved by now are the ones that I was moved by as a child. And I was fortunate to be the youngest in my family, so everything trickled down to me. So I would be a fourth grader in school listening to Tom Waits and Van Morrison and Dylan.
Yeah, when you have older brothers and sisters, your kind of musical tastes kind of cover a much wider range.
For better, for worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were some
For
worse.
you, it was for better.
It was for better. So, and I've spent a lot of time reflecting on who and why over the years. And it really comes down to, I found the common theme is in all the artists I enjoy are artists of intention, great intention, and using the parts to build something bigger than itself. Say what you want about the history of any of those artists I mentioned, but they're all on the mission to reflect on and step into the mystery of what it means to be human. And that's something I've always been attracted to.
And Bob Dylan did that quite kind of explicitly, didn't he? Sort of. I remember he did sing in front of John Paul II.
Yeah, he did,
didn't he? And so
they always get a little more explicit towards the end of their life, because if you look at people like Paul Simon and Dylan, I mean, they're not shy about the source.
Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper, yeah. I mean, talk about
incredible.
Even Ozzy Osbourne has had moments where he was opening up some tender and vulnerable spots in his life.
So this whole kind of event is based around this incredible kind of vignette in the gospel.
Yeah, the story of the woman at the well,
which is a pretty. I always find it's a kind of totally unique moment in which there's this kind of wide-ranging discussion that goes from sort of morality to theology to
worship, true worship.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the main thread of the story of the woman at the well is, what do you worship? Right? We all are made of this deep hunger and thirst. Why do we go to a well? We go to a well because we're thirsty, right? And when Jesus says to her, go get your husband, you're like, where's this comment coming from? He's trying to point out to her where she's been taking her thirst, right? We all worship whatever we think is going to satisfy that thirst. And interestingly enough, this is a kind of symbolic underlayer in the story that a lot of people don't pick up on. She had been married 5 times and now she's with another guy. So she had 6 lovers in her life. Well, 6 is the imperfect lover. It's the imperfect number. She had taken her thirst for love to all these imperfect lovers, right? 6 being the imperfect number. What's the perfect number in the Bible? 7. Well, who became her 7th lover? Right? This whole story is about redirecting our thirst from imperfect lovers to the perfect lover, to Jesus. That's true worship. When we come to realize you are the living water I'm thirsting for, when she says, give me this water, now she's entering true worship, right? Give me this water. I yearn for this water. Her heart, her thirst is being redirected from a false well, a well that couldn't satisfy, to the well of living waters. And that well of living waters is the Eucharist. That's the direction of this event. It's first get us in touch with our own hunger and thirst, then an honest look at where have we been taking our hunger and thirst, and noticing Jesus doesn't scold us, he doesn't shame us, doesn't condemn us. He redirects that hunger and thirst towards what we're really hungry and thirsty for.
And there's that beautiful, he kind of recognizes the effort and the pain of constantly going back to that well that just doesn't satisfy. And he says, you don't need to do this all the time.
That's right.
I'll give you a water that'll.
If you drink the water that I give you, you will never thirst again. It will well up in you.
At least she's going to the well.
That's right. She feels the thirst. And
she's thirsty.
That's critical. We have to feel the thirst for the gospel to make any sense to us. The gospel is for hungry and thirsty people, right? Where are we taking that hunger and thirst? We're made for something more than what this world is holding out to us. And we're not crazy to imagine there is living water that can satisfy that thirst.
I think that's an important point, at least a very important point for me, because when I really started to get into my faith, it was at an older age, and it wasn't a refusal of my history, but it was a reflection on really what am I hungry for? And so when I was introduced to specifically Theology of the Body through Christopher, it was the first time that instead of feeling like I needed to get to a place of holiness, I felt like the yearnings that I had already, the place where I already was where I needed to start. And
Amen.
it was an invitation to take a step forward. If I'm supposed to be somewhere where everybody else is, looking at where I'm at, I'm hopeless. But if I can see where I'm at as a place of good and better lies ahead of me, if I direct it on what will truly satisfy, that's the leap of faith that doesn't give up. So,
And I mean, it's really interesting that you're kind of here at this moment in 2025. 'Cause I don't know if you've been following, but we had this incredible kind of report that came out around Easter time here, which said that young people in particular were praying, attending church services suddenly in kind of record numbers. It seems that thirst has finally kind of hit.
Yes.
And the young people are just not kind of happy with what the new atheists were kind of dishing out. Or
It doesn't do justice to our own experience, right? When you're paying attention to what's really going on inside, you know that there is a cry in there for something. What is that something we are crying out for? I say to everyone, pay attention to that cry. Pay attention to that ache. And pay attention to your pain points. Because when we take our hunger and thirst to those things that don't satisfy, we're left in pain. It causes us pain. And a culture that sells us a counterfeit version of the human story, also at the very same time, to keep the illusion going, it has to sell us all kinds of numbing agents to keep us from feeling the pain.
Or distractions.
Yes, distractions, booze. I mean, what woke me up when I was a teenager in my late teens, I was in college, this is the late 1980s, and I did an experiment one weekend where I just chose to stay sober. Like I said, I'm going to stay sober for one weekend because I want to see what's really going on this college campus. Because my question was, why do we all have to get drunk to pretend we're having a good time? So I stayed sober. And that weekend was so eye-opening to me. I looked around and I didn't see anybody having a good time. I saw a lot of pain and a lot of misery. And that set me on a journey. Like, why am I in so much pain? If you numb your hand and you're putting your hand on a hot stove, you won't even know your hand's burning off. The nerve endings that tell you don't do that are very good for us. That's why we should pay attention to our pain. It will jostle us in the right direction if we're paying attention.
I always thought in the 90s with kind of dance music and house and stuff, the only way that music could be made interesting was by taking lots of drugs. That was basically, it was so bad.
Is that what was missing for me? Okay, it's good to know.
So, I mean, maybe we can just kind of finish off. I mean, what you were saying before is that, I mean, John Paul II really had this incredibly high anthropology.
Yes.
You know, we are great. We have been made by God in his image, and we cannot settle
That's
for
exactly
the
right.
kind of dross that the world wants to give us.
And we must reconcile ourselves to our own greatness, he says. And that's no easy journey to go on. Sometimes we prefer to settle for mediocrity or worse. But if you're paying attention to that cry of your heart, it'll lead you to the greatness that we are as human beings.
So I'm really looking forward to the event tonight. Well, thank you so much for everything that you guys do. Really carry on. Our prayers are with you. We're rooting for the theology of the body. And tell us a bit where we can find out a bit more about what you do.
Yeah, theologythebody.com will take you to our main website. We're very active on YouTube. We have a brand new podcast that we're launching that we're calling
This fall.
called, you tell them
No,
the name.
please.
You came up with it. It's a good one. I love this name.
It's called The Word Made Fresh.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, we're discussing all these themes, but also social media.
Social media, we're
Instagram.
all over socials.
Both of us.
My wife and I do a podcast called Ask Christopher West. It has 350 episodes or more.
You came up with that name. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and follow Mike. Listen to his music. Take it up.
Yeah, my website, MikeMangione.com. I'm the other Mangione, you know.
Brilliant. So,
Not to be confused with Chuck.
That's right. That's right.
so thank you so much. And it's been lovely to speak with you guys. Thanks. Do follow us, like and subscribe for similar content. Thank you very much.